on Bhagavad-gītā. Today's discussion is titled Krishna Shelter, the Ultimate Benediction. And we are going to discuss this subject based on Bhagavad-gītā Sloka, chapter 18, text 66. I'll read the Sloka. Sarvadharman parityajya mahamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. The translation goes like this. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Umakyanti mirantasya ananjana shalakya chakshurmilitam mere tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishpada Krishna Krishna Bhutre Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Guruvan Chane Visheshishne Pachata Kesta. Om Karode Vachalam Gugam Navedi Padma Shri Guru Chaitanya. So, in this verse today, which is the ultimate instruction given by Krishna to Arjuna, it is the instructions given by Krishna. And it's supposed to be one of the most important verses in Bhagavad Gita. Of course, all the verses are important, but then this is the one of the most important verses in Bhagavad Gita. And if we see, we take birth, we take death, we die also. And this is due to so many karma that we perform in our day-to-day life, throughout our life, for which we have to take the reactions, for which we have to take birth again. So Krishna is giving in this sloka the solution for the same, and by which we can understand the title itself, Krishna's Shelter, the Ultimate Benediction. Now, people take shelter of so many demigods, people take shelter of so many processes. So in order to clear that, Krishna is clearing with this particular sloka. Let's go through this one by one, important points in this sloka. Krishna says that abandon all varieties of religion we have developed within ourselves by our own speculation, so many forms of religion. Some may be to do with demigod worship, some may be to do with different processes. For example, in Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna has explained Karma Yoga, he has explained Jnana Yoga, he explained Dhyana Yoga, and finally he concludes that Bhakti Yoga is the best of all the processes. So, these are all different forms. If you see, many people say that work is worship. Some say that if Manava Seva is Madhava Seva, that means by serving humanity, it's like serving Madhava, the Lord himself, which is not true. But on the other hand, the reality is by serving Madhava, one serves not only the humanity, but all the species of life. Example is by watering the root of a tree, all the branches and twigs also get the water, but you can't water each and every leaf and a trunk or a branch. So this way, there are so many forms of religion people have adopted, and none of them may be wrong, but the process is longer. For example, given an easy, simple example given is that you can go to the, say, 10th floor of a building by climbing the stairs, which is very tedious, and by the time you go there, you get exhausted. It takes a very long time. And the same thing can be achieved by taking a lift and reaching the 10th floor. So Bhakti Yoga is that process which is like a lift. You don't have to do anything else but Bhakti. But mankind is so complicated that if Krishna would have given the Bhakti Yoga in the beginning of the chapter, or even if he had given this particular sloka in the beginning of the chapter, people would not have taken the process, nor would they would have understood the purpose of it. But in this verse, Krishna clearly explains, abandon all varieties of religion. So whatever religion that we are trying to adopt or practice, He says, abandon everything. Then he says, just surrender unto me. When he says, just surrender unto me, means don't surrender to anybody else. There is no need to separately uh, a mixed surrender. Today I surrender to Krishna, tomorrow I surrender to some demigod. No, it says surrender unto me. That means unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then when you do that, he says, I shall deliver you from all the sinful reactions. It's a clear cut no that we are here in this world due to one is that, of course, due to our tendency to enjoy separately from the Lord, in the process of which we do a lot of activities and then we have to take the reactions. Most of it are sinful, which are done out of ignorance or lack of knowledge. And then he says, I will deliver you, if you surrender unto me, I will deliver you from all the sinful reactions that you have incurred. How many lifetimes we have done what we don't know? But Krishna is giving an assurance. And then he says, do not fear. So we should not have any fear in our mind that by surrendering to Krishna, will I lose my own freedom? Or will I surrender by surrendering to Krishna? Am I not completely giving up everything to Krishna himself instead of any other demigod, any other form of God? There is only one God, and there's only one God who can give us the liberation, that is Krishna only. Other than Krishna, there is no one else who can give liberation from material sufferings. So, this is in a nutshell the entire sum and substance of the sloka. We'll go through some of the important points. Now, there are many different types of realizations of God, and the three basic steps are Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. People sometimes worship the impersonal form of the Lord known as Brahman. This Brahman is the Brahman glaring effulgence covering the body of the Lord. Just like light emanates from a tube light, the light has got the tube has got a form, but light does not have a form. Similarly, God has got a form, but this Brahman is a effulgence which does not have a form. So some people worship Krishna in this way. Some people worship the Lord as Paramatma, seated in the heart, and as a super soul. And some worship Bhagavan as the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Krishna. So here is also explained that there is no need to worship Brahman or Paramatma, but rather worship the form of Krishna, that form of Krishna who is standing in front of Arjuna. So this is what Krishna is telling, that you surrender unto me and abandon all forms of religions. So the point is that in the 7th chapter also, the Lord says one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. So one might think that I have to become free from sinful reactions and then worship Krishna. No. Even if there are some sinful reactions, Krishna says that you take up the surrendering process. So here the most important subject is the name surrender. Now, when it comes to surrender, people are normally hesitant, thinking that why should I surrender? But it is that freedom of independence of freedom that we think that is stopping us from surrendering. But rather, when one surrenders to Krishna, he becomes free from all other reactions. Not only that, he is not obliged to anybody else. So one should accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all the living entities. Srila Prabhupada quotes an important verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The verse goes like this: Anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam lakshishyatiti vishvaso goptritve varnam tata atmanikshepa karpanye satvida sharanagatihi. So this verse explains what is surrender. So there are 6 principles of surrender. Now, I will briefly go through these 6 principles. One is that one who is fully surrendered is qualified only if he has got these following 6 characteristics. This is a process. And if one does this completely, properly and perfectly, then he can be called as a surrendered soul. It's an ongoing process. It's not that I surrender today and I'm immediately free. But then particularly because the material world has got so many complexities, so it's an ongoing process. Now, the first point is a devotee has to accept everything that is favorable for the rendering of transcendental loving service to the Lord. That means whatever is favorable to performing devotional service to the Lord, that we must accept. Now, for example, the Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam. That means I accept water, leaf, etc., that is offered with love. So that is all the Lord will accept. Now, if we speculate within ourselves that and I can offer anything and eat, that is not acceptable. So for the first point is that devotee has to accept anything that is favorable for rendering loving service to the Lord. That loving service to the Lord itself means bhakti yoga. Even if one takes to the process of karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, one will have to ultimately reach the process of bhakti yoga, because without bhakti, one cannot practice even karma yoga also. Karma yoga means, for example, if one practices some activities and wants to offer to Krishna, that is karma yoga. But without knowing that the supreme beneficiary is Krishna, whom will you give it to? So for every aspect of worship, the Krishna is the only beneficiary, is the supreme enjoyer, and is the cause of all causes. So bhakti is the basic point that is required to worship Krishna. That is important and the best and the easiest to practice. So accepting everything that is favorable to rendering the loving service to the Lord. Second point is he must reject everything that is unfavorable to the Lord's service. This is actually called renunciation. That means we reject what is not favorable to our devotional service. We normally say for regulative principles like no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. So we reject these because they are not favorable to our devotional service. The third point is that a devotee must be convinced that Krishna will give him protection. Now, there is a very popular sloka that Krishna used, that Srila Prabhupada always used to in his classes. Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake. The meaning of that also is that if Krishna wants to kill somebody, nobody can protect him. And if Krishna wants to protect somebody, nobody can kill him. So that the conclusion is that Krishna is the only one who can give protection, and there is nobody else who can give protection. And one should be firmly convinced, and they must have faith on this. A devotee always wants to remain in the Lord's service. This is the most important thing. And when one renders service to Krishna, Krishna is the all-merciful Father. A father is always interested in the well-being of his children. So Krishna protects his children. So Krishna is the only one who can give protection from all types of dangers. And the fourth point is that devotee should accept that Krishna as his supreme maintainer and master. Krishna maintains all the living entities created by him in all the planetary systems. Now, there is no one who can maintain, as you all might be knowing, Krishna creates through Brahma, maintains through himself as Vishnu, and annihilates through Shiva. So it is said, and it is true also, that maintenance is more difficult and important than even creation and annihilation. So Krishna does this through himself as Vishnu. So Krishna is the supreme maintainer, and he is the supreme master. There is no other master for us because Krishna is the supreme God of all. Even Brahma says, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigra, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. So one should not think that he can be protected by any other demigod or so forth. It is not possible. Krishna is the only protector and maintainer. There is nobody else. The fifth point that is given is self-surrender. That means remembering that all of one's activities and desires, they are not independent of Krishna. They are all, the devotee is completely dependent on Krishna, and he acts and thinks as Krishna desires. So this is a very important because the devotee always thinks that whatever activities I do, whatever desires I have, they are all to please Krishna. So this is complete self-surrender. And the last point, sixth point, is that a devotee is very, very meek and humble. So without humility, devotional service can never be practiced. So humility is the first stepping process to practice devotional service. One cannot be having a false ego at the same time exhibit humility. It is like sailing on one leg on each boat and crossing the ocean. One will invariably slip into the ocean water. So one should accept these principles that are given by Krishna himself. And when one performs his duty with these in mind and without expecting any results, then that is perfection of this Bhakti Yoga. Anything else that does not lead to Krishna consciousness, ultimately, whatever we do, it should help us to lead and practice this Krishna consciousness. And under all circumstances, we'll go through some of the examples. One example is Draupadi. As we all know, in Mahabharata, Draupadi was disrobed in front of all in the assembly, and the first thing that she did was to try to protect herself. She made many attempts, but still, when all her attempts failed, then she called out for Madhava. That means she called out for the Lord, and as soon as she called out for the Lord immediately came to and rescued her. This is one perfect example of how when she surrendered herself to Krishna, first she tried to use all her efforts, but later when it all failed, then finally surrendered to Krishna. This is one example of how surrender helps one to be protected by Krishna and maintained by Krishna. And this surrendering process is not a straight process, but straight process means it's not an instant process. One must take to the process of devotional service. And when one starts this process of devotional service, gradually he becomes purified of all the sinful contamination that one has got. We all have a lot of sinful contamination in us, and they all are exhibited in the form of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion. So as long as these anarthas are present in our body, we cannot leave this material world. We have to become free from all these anarthas. And the only process to get rid of these anarthas is devotional service to the Lord. No karma yoga, no dhyana yoga will help us to get rid of these anarthas. So that is why when we practice Bhakti Yoga, which will lead us gradually to a process of purification, and at the same time will lead us to the process of surrender also. The purpose of doing the Bhakti Yoga also is that we are all eternal servants of Krishna. So when we surrender to Krishna, automatically Krishna takes care of us in every possible way. The point of humility, like I mentioned, humility is something that very required for us to practice devotional service. Humility should result in removing our false ego or misidentification of who we are. We always tend to identify ourselves with our body, and in the process, we identify with matter, with our own, not only our body, extended family like our relatives, that further extends to our nationality, and we try to identify ourselves. I'm an Indian, I'm an American, so forth. So all these are due to our false ego, and this false ego also is completely vanished when we practice this devotional service. In fact, if we see in most of the slokas, we start with the word namaha. That namaha means no false ego. So, and it is because of this false ego we have, and we identify with our ego, we are bound in this material world. Another important point that is given here is that one should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. The very name Krishna means he's all attractive. And one who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful and omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. Of course, one can worship Narayana, one can worship Narasimha. These are all authorized forms of worship. But ultimately, Krishna is the cause of all the incarnations also. And the type of mellows that one can derive by worshipping of Krishna, one may not derive in the worship of Narayana also. One may not get all the mellows in those. So one should get attracted to the beautiful personal feature of the Lord, two-handed form of the Lord, by worshipping this form. And then Krishna says that Krishna also has mentioned that this devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of the knowledge, and that is the essence of whole Bhagavad-gītā. Now one might think why Krishna did not emphasize only on Bhakti Yoga. Each and every one individual of us have a different characteristic. Not everyone will take up to the process of Bhakti Yoga straight away. And Krishna also, by explaining all these processes, ultimately he says Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate, best and easiest process. And if one takes up this process, then one becomes successful in life. We'll go through some of the examples also. Now also Krishna says that Ma Suchaha. Ma Suchaha means don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry. That means by surrendering unto him completely, one should become free of our fear. We are bound by fear at all point of time. We have anxiety. That anxiety leads to fear because we don't know what is going to happen in the next moment of time. If you see, 2 days back, some 25, 26 people were killed when they went on holiday to Kashmir. So nobody knew, but then a holiday has resulted into mass killing of many innocent people who went there. So the point is that everyone is under anxiety, and that anxiety leads one to a lot of fear. But at the same time, when one takes to this process of Krishna consciousness, one becomes free from all anxiety and from all fear. That's what Krishna is giving an assurance that don't fear. That means we should have that faith. Yes, by surrendering to Krishna, I will become free from all anxiety and fear. We'll go through some examples. During Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, there was a dear devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His name was Srivasa Thakura. So in Srivasa Thakura's house, every night and day there used to be kirtan, and all his Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his associates would perform kirtan. So this Srivasa Thakura would not go out of his house. He would be always at his house. So one day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him that you are not going out to work and you are not doing anything else also. So how would you think that you will maintain your family? You have got your wife, your children, and everybody. So Srivasa Thakura replied, 1, 2, 3. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, what is this meaning of 1, 2, 3? So Srivasa Thakura replied, if for 3 days I don't have anything for me or to feed my family, then me and my family will drown into the Ganges and give up our body. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave an assurance. When he heard this, he said, no, 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 no. I give you an assurance that, because Srivasa Thakura was always engaged only in devotional service. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave an assurance that even if a day comes that Lakshmi Devi herself has to go house to house to beg, which will not happen, even if it comes to that, I give you an assurance that your house will never be deprived of any material necessities. So this is from this simple pastime, we should understand that Srivasa Thakura was a surrendered soul to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was never in short of anything. Similarly, Advaita Acharya's house, he used to invite a lot of mendicants, sannyasis and all. And it is said that he never got exhausted of any of the necessities in his home. So this is how devotees who have surrendered, they are always protected by the Lord. They are also maintained by the Lord. Another example is Srila Prabhupada himself. It is said even until the last days of his life, he was involved 100% in service to Krishna. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. He was attending to his devotees. He was attending to the audience who came to see him. This way, Srila Prabhupada gave up everything to Krishna, and Krishna took care of him all through his life. So the gopis is another example. The gopis would leave all their family, etc., at night and go for playing with Krishna. We might think it is in a different way, but actually they were all rendering service to Krishna. Some more examples are like Vibhishana. Vibhishana was born in basically a demoniac family background. But then a time came when Vibhishana tried to persuade Ravana to give up Sita. But Ravana never heard Vibhishana's words. Rather, Vibhishana was insulted. So Vibhishana left and came and surrendered to Lord Rama. And Lord Rama accepted him as his disciple. In fact, in Ramayana also it is said that the day we tell Lord Rama that from this day onwards, I'm yours, the Lord takes care of the person. So this is one example of Vibhishana, because the same thing what Lord Rama said, the same thing even Krishna says. Another example is Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj gave his entire kingdom, he gave himself up. And when he had nothing, he asked Vamandev to place the Lord's lotus feet on his head. And this way he surrendered everything to Vamandev. So there are many examples of surrendership. Yeah, I'll finish this. Parikshit Maharaj attained the highest perfection at Krishna's lotus feet simply by hearing about Lord Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami attained perfection simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj attained perfection simply by remembering the Lord. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, attained perfection by simply massaging the Lord's transcendental legs. Maharaj Prithu attained perfection by worshipping the deity form of the Lord. Akrura attained perfection by rendering service to the Lord. Hanuman, by offering prayers to the Lord. Hanuman attained perfection by rendering service to Lord Rama. Arjuna attained perfection by acting as Krishna's friend. Bali Maharaj attained perfection by dedicating everything to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna in the form of Vamanadev. So the 9 processes of devotional service, in this way we see that each one of them attained perfection by following perfection of life, by following one or other process of devotional service and surrendering themselves to the Supreme Lord. So there's 9 processes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. And in each of these processes, we see these great personalities. They all attain perfection by surrendering to the Lord, by taking up one of the processes. So in this Kali Yuga, the 2 easiest and the simple processes are to start with the Shravanam and Kirtanam. So if we start the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, a time will reach when we do this sincerely, we will be able to surrender to Lord Krishna himself. And as Krishna says, that he will deliver us from all sinful reactions, do not fear. So that is the greatest benediction that one can get in his life. He does not have to take shelter of anyone else, because the only person who can give shelter is Lord Krishna only. So with this, I conclude the discussions for the day. Anybody has got any questions or any comments, they can ask me for the subject.
Thank you, Prabhuji. The class was very good and comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for your simple and very powerful message. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Tirtha Chaitanya Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for your class. Thank you, devotee.